Yo, what's good, everybody? It's a rainy day. I'm tired. I wanted to make a quick video. Um, just some thoughts that I was having. Um, Reviewing some footage of Tupac um, and his legal troubles that he was having. Uh, I'm a fan of hip hop. Number one, I grew up in the hip hop era, definitely. So I remember all the issues that NWA had, Public Enemy had. But something I started thinking about was um, groups like DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince didn't have those issues. Um, Groups uh, like Salt and Pepper didn't have those issues. There were other groups out there that were more mainstream artists. They didn't have those issues. So then, what does that leave us with? I was also thinking about Colin Kaepernick because I have so many white dudes mad on my other post where I was talking about our posts plural, but specifically the one I was talking about boycotting the NFL for their collusion in the blackballing of Colin Kaepernick. And what it leads you with is a consistent mindset that anytime a black man speaks out or speaks his mind against injustice against his people, he's always going to be persecuted. You got NWA, right? You got, like I said, you have Public Enemy. Those issues, those guys face federal. You got Ghetto Boys. Those guys face federal problems, federal charges. It wasn't just people in different counties didn't like them. They faced federal pressure. So then you take it to sports, and you have Colin Kaepernick. You had Sharif Mahmoud Rauf. You have Craig Hodges. Look at Craig Hodges' story. Go back and check out Craig Hodges. I know who Craig Hodges is because I'm a Bulls fan. I grew up in the Chicago Bulls dynasty era. So I know who Craig Hodges is, one of the best three-point shooters in the history of the game. And then all of a sudden he couldn't find work because he started speaking out against racial injustice. Mahmoud Rauf started speaking out against the national anthem and against racial injustice in the United States. And all of a sudden he couldn't find work, even though he's one of the best guards in the NBA. I believe he was an all-star as well. So the mindset that that businesses, corporate America, the affluent areas of white America have is that as a black person, sit down, shut up, entertain us, but never speak up against atrocities happening to your people, because the second that you do, then we're going to not only just pull support from you, we're going to persecute you. That's what continues to happen. And what they do is they make examples out of some people. So they'll take a Tupac and they'll say, okay, he didn't rape somebody, but he was right next to somebody who was raping somebody. And we're not even going to go after the people who actually raped somebody. We're going to go after him for standing next to somebody who we say raped somebody, even though there was no rape. You had Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was too arrogant in his athleticism. He didn't speak out against racial injustices, but he was too arrogant. And it's like anytime that a black person has too much pride in himself, anytime that they speak too loudly, that they're maybe at the top of their profession and their voice may carry, anytime that they have some kind of pride in their people or in their blackness, they're singled out and they're persecuted. Now, not to retry any case, but how many women come up to another man's room at 2:00 in the morning and don't expect for sex to be going down? Nobody. That's who. No matter what race you are. But when it comes to speaking out against injustices. Had a brother sit there and talk about that Colin Kaepernick was disrespecting the flag and disrespecting the country and patriotism and the national anthem. Number one, how can you disrespect a national anthem written by somebody who don't even respect you in the first place? If the national anthem was so respectful, then how come you don't sing the second verse? If the United States, if standing up against oppression or resisting against the oppression of oligarchy or something like that was not patriotic, then where did those stars and where did those stripes come from in the flag? Because I could have sworn those were sewn in there with the mindset of the colonies that were fighting against the Britons. And they didn't listen to Britain rule. They believed that they should have the freedom to make their own laws and to navigate their own destiny. But when black people feel like we should be able to be protected by that same constitution in the same way with the same powers that white people are expected to are expecting or take for granted, then somehow we're the ones that are wrong. You can't explain that to me. And when you talk to somebody, this is how you know somebody has a mindset of white supremacy and they want to maintain white supremacy. It's not even so much that they don't agree with what you're saying. It's that they agree too much and they want to maintain white supremacy. And the way that you know that is when you bring facts to them. Like the fact that the guy who wrote the Star Spangled Banner actually wrote it as a song speaking against African Americans at the time fighting for their independence or fighting to not be slaves anymore. When you bring those facts to them, number one, they act like they haven't heard the facts when they know it's true. They act like they've never read that when they know it's true. Secondly, when you talk about in the NFL how it's not patriotic to stand to kneel during the playing of the national anthem, and then you bring to them the fact that the NFL never stood or never had players stand for the playing of the national anthem until the armed forces paid them to have their players stand during the national anthem to show patriotism so that they could bring numbers up in the armed forces. When you bring those facts to them, then they don't want to talk about that. They move on to something else. Because if you're talking about the national anthem and the fact that the national anthem was written by a racist, and that the national anthem in itself is applauding racism and applauding violence against African Americans who are fighting for their own independence, then they don't want to talk about that either. So, you know, I look at any time that a black man or a black woman, especially a black man though, black women, they give more of a leash to, and I use the word leash lightly, you know what I mean, but they give more of a leash to because they still want to make sure that they put division between black men and black women. So they want to maintain that division. So they can't get on y'all as hard as they get on us, and they can't condemn y'all as hard as they get on us, because if they condemn y'all just as hard as they condemn us, then there goes the division that they're trying to put between black men and black women. So they'll come against anybody, any black man, any black woman that speaks out against racial injustices, especially if you're making money. That's why the Oprahs of the world are not going to be the civil rights champion. That's why the Michael Jordans of the world aren't going to be a champion of civil rights. That's why you know, the guys are girls or men or women that are prominent with money that they've gotten from white dollars and black dollars. If you have established any form of wealth in this country, they're going to hit you in your pockets if you start speaking out against racial injustice. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. Don't remind me of my hypocrisy. They'll tell you to remember the Alamo. They'll tell you to celebrate 4th of July every year. But when you want to celebrate Juneteenth or when you want to, if you want to talk about slavery and the effects of slavery and how long-reaching it is, and how the criminal justice system is just perpetuating slavery, legalized slavery over and over again, then they tell us to forget about it. Why don't you get over it? You never tell Jewish people to get over the Holocaust, though. It's bull crap, but we owe it to not only our children, we owe it to our families, we owe it to our ancestors to continue to be loud, to continue to speak up, to continue to get on a pulpit somewhere and speak about injustices and speak about inequalities that we have in this country. We owe it to all of them to do that. That's our job. That's our responsibility. That's what people who were older than us died for, who had less than us died for. We owe it to them to continue to speak about injustices, and not only just speak about it, but do things to bring those injustices to an end. We owe them that. So black men, black women, speak out. White men, white women who are sympathizers to the cause, speak out. Asian brothers who are sympathizing to the cause, or whoever you are, speak out. We owe it to the people who came here before us to do that. All right, I'm out.